Hey, Colleen, how's it going? Hello,
Hello.
how's it going?
Going pretty good.
Oh, we
I
got
got
Jim on the line. Oh, he's in the process. What were you saying?
I got a lot of the paragraph put together for the question yesterday, so I
Awesome.
should be able to finish that up today.
Very nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Jim, how are you doing? Good to see you.
Good. How are you? Yeah, good to see you too. What are we congratulating?
Oh, Colleen's just making good progress on her proposal.
Oh, awesome.
Nice. Can everyone hear me? Test, test.
Yeah. How you doing, Sam?
How's it going?
Yeah, image Charlie.
Yeah, I moved last week, so to just down the street, but I felt like I moved across country. But I finally have my my command center all set up, so we're ready to go out here.
Very good. Very good. What prompted the move?
Oh, me and Maggie moved from a 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom, so she has more than she's now can stand farther than 15 feet from me. So
That ought to be nice.
yeah, he's at my desk in the living room, so if she was watching TV, she'd have to turn it down if I was doing work. So,
Yeah, that's not fun.
yeah.
Everybody needs a little space.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, good to see everybody. I'm glad this time worked out. I didn't know if this was going to work out, so it's nice to see everybody. I think Jack's still on vacation somewhere, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't heard anything.
Cool. All right. Well, if everybody's down, we'll go ahead and get started. Let's see if I can share my screen, and before I get too far, I'll make it so that everybody can share their screen. I don't know why this isn't the default option, but. Okay, everybody's got that?
Yeah, you're good.
By the way, how many people are presenting today?
I don't
I
have a
have
PowerPoint, but I can talk.
Okay.
I have a short PowerPoint.
Okay.
Yeah, same over here.
All right, sounds good. This looks like a lot of stuff. A lot of this is just stuff I had kind of waiting in the wings to let people know about. So this isn't quite as long as it seems. One is that there's a new file recovery tool that is put out there by Microsoft, which is nice because a lot of these tools are sort of borderline sketchy themselves. So having something that's going to sort of be a little bit more official is nice. It looks like you need version Windows 10 2004, which I don't actually have on my laptop, but all of the lab computers are set for this. So Sam, I don't know if you've got if you get a free minute, would you mind throwing these on all of the machines?
Yep, I can do that for you.
Cool. Better to have this stuff in place before you need it. Anytime you lose data, any write to the disk is sort of putting you never really know which part of the disk it's going to get written to. So you don't want to be installing stuff on the computer that you're trying to save. You can make things worse.
Yeah.
So we'll get it in place. We'll get it in place now. Which, by the way, friendly reminder, don't forget to back up your data. Unfortunately, Molly McKnight had an incident a couple of weeks ago where she lost a pile of stuff. I don't know if anybody heard about that, but
wasn't her? She texted me about it like late at night. She was like, "Oh, is there anything I can do?" I'm like, I think there's some programs, but they're expensive." And I was like, "Was it important?" She goes, "Yeah, it's my thesis stuff." I'm like, "Oh no, that's not good." I asked if Corinne had a copy, and she's like, I think she said she didn't have it, or she doesn't know.
Yeah, she didn't. So a lot of it ended up getting lost.
No.
Yeah, it's a problem. Well, it didn't end up being a huge deal because by that point the thesis was done, the data analysis was done. It was just It would have been nice to archive it, and she is trying to publish that. And so when inevitably comments come back and they're like, can you do this? That's going to make it harder to do that. So But at least that's down the road away, so we don't have to worry about that for a little while. But just a friendly reminder, 3 copies there doesn't exist. Take that seriously. Information is your livelihood. Try to back it up. This came through my email. This is a guide to getting waivers for flying over people. Remember that when you're flying, you're not supposed to be flying over people that are not directly participating in the mission, which is hard to avoid in an urban area. Pretty much impossible to do in an urban area, so you should not be flying over people. You should not be flying over roads, but you can get exceptions for these things. You can see, though, that the number of exceptions that has happened is 1. So really, this isn't likely to happen, but it's good to know about the procedures for this stuff. It is a little bit more common to get night waivers. This is mostly just kind of a note to myself. All of you guys are probably new enough pilots that it doesn't affect you yet. But you do have to keep current with your remote pilot license. So every 2 years, you need to take a knowledge refresher test. It's not the whole thing, but I did have to, the last time I took this, I had to go into a place and do it. I have to check on my expiration date. I think it's probably coming up in November or something like that. So if coronavirus is still around, I'm going to probably need to do this. But apparently there's a little online test you can do to push things back another 6 months. I ran into a really interesting problem where I do not know how this happened, but I don't know if you guys think back to the analysis lecture where I talked about shapefile parts. Shapefiles are made of at least three key pieces. One is the SHP file, which holds the geometry. One is the DBF file, which holds the attribute information. And the other one is the SHX file that kind of glues the two together. Somehow I lost only that file, and I didn't even realize that. I was loading it up to do some analysis, and Fiona complained in Python that it couldn't do it, but it had this interesting message that said that you can use Fiona to fix it. So it says set shape restore SHX config option to restore or create it. So that was kind of neat to know that Fiona can fix this problem. I could not find any really good way to do this, but along the way, I did discover that one of the things that GDAL does when it installs, and you guys all know by now that GDAL is kind of installed along with a number of other pieces. So by the time you've installed something like NeilPy, you've definitely got a GDAL installation in there somewhere. As part of that GDAL installation, there's a command line Fiona, which can do things like some basic simple processing of vector data. And one of the things that it can do is repair this missing SHX file. I couldn't figure out a good way to actually use any command line switches to make this happen. I found a couple of pieces that sort of say that how it could be done on the Linux side, but I didn't want to go that route if I didn't need to. But what I did find out is that your Fiona executable is located in your Anaconda environments scripts folder. So that was kind of a nice find. And then I couldn't figure out a way to use it on the command line as a switch. But I did find out if you set, where's my little drawing things? I did find that if you set this environment, so your computer has a number of different sort of like environment variables that live in the OS. And you can set this little environment variable, and then you can run it and it works fine. So that was kind of a pleasant little find. Now I got to turn my marker off. There we go. Uh-oh. I got a blue circle over everything. Annotate. Clear all drawings. There we go. I also found, I need to pass this along to Jack because I think this is going to come in handy for him almost immediately with his photogrammetry on a stick project. But a long time ago, I was on this Facebook thread and somebody had posted this super awesome Excel spreadsheet that does a bunch of really great calculations in terms of like what your resulting images ground density is going to be like for photogrammetric processing, overlaps between flight lines, all kinds of really neat stuff. So it's a really neat little spreadsheet. So I'm gonna I already put this in the Neil, one of the Neil directories, and it's gonna live in. Oh, I got the path down here, and I'll archive it along with this lab report just in case. I couldn't find it on the website to download by itself, but I still have a copy. I don't know where I got it in the first place. I also found this really okay article by Pixwordy talking about ground control point accuracy. The gist of it is that more GCPs doesn't always mean better registration. And their point was that it kind of tops off at about 5. So beyond 5 ground control points, you don't really get a ton more benefit. So they've got a whole graph, and you can sort of read all about it if you're interested. Another thing that I've been really interested in is, so one of the reasons I was spending so much time looking at that pictometry data to build a photogrammetric map of the Virginia Tech campus is that I want to print one. And one of the problems with 3D printing a really intricate mesh like that is you get a lot of, it's actually pretty hard to come up with meshes that are sort of printable. There's a lot of little disconnected features and things start looking weird. And I thought one of the ways that this could be done is with voxels. So a voxel is like a pixel, but in 3 dimensions. And so this is about actually a 3D printer that will print in voxels. But I'm kind of interested in developing a way to kind of voxelize ordinary meshes for printing. So this is also kind of a note to self. This is also a super old note to self, but this is about running Linux in a Hyper-V session. So we've been using VirtualBox as our kind of virtual machine of choice. But if we don't know, it's good to keep in mind that Windows has its own kind of virtual machine space called Hyper-V, which I haven't messed around with too much, but some people really like it. And Windows is making some pretty good strides in the virtual machine area. So I don't know, maybe Sam, if you get bored one day, you can, have you messed around with Hyper-V at all?
Yeah, a couple months ago when we were actually at campus and me and Jack were on the Linux adventure for a couple weeks, I tested out Hyper-V. And it's pretty cool because so VirtualBox runs on top of Windows. So you have to load all of Windows and run it. Hyper-V like cuts off part of the computer. So like when you turn on your computer, you can have it set where it kicks on those virtual machines. So as Windows is still loading up, it'll turn on those machines. So you and it's like separated, like sections off that hardware. So I think it's useful. I don't think I was able to get it to work. It's like not as refined as VirtualBox, I would say. It's a little bit kind of older looking, but it works. I think I punted on it because it was when we were trying to do the RDP into Ubuntu. And I've tried 15 times trying to set up RDP, and I'm pretty sure it's impossible. You said you got it once, but that was a while ago.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, that
I have
was
no
like,
idea what I did.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, this is the diminishing returns, but I think it'd be pretty cool if it seems like it's more like enterprise kind of grade, which maybe it'd be useful for us.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll kind of keep it in our back pocket. I'm glad that
Yeah.
you played around with it. We can kind of leave it in the distance for now, but
Yeah.
but Hyper-V, I think it's got some potential. And then this is also, you know, we've got a couple of spherical cameras in the lab now. The cheap Ryko SC or whatever that we have has some pretty bad seams along the, you know, it's basically got 2 cameras that look outward and kind of a fisheye thing, and it sticks those together. Whereas this has, you know, a pile of different cameras and it stitches those together. So probably there are less artifacts around the seams because the seams aren't so bad. So I don't know. We probably won't buy this, but it seems like a neat little camera. Maybe we can talk the library into getting one. So I don't know, 4 months ago or so, 3 months ago, I don't know, I started putting some serious effort into trying to get the Neil Python environment straightened out a little bit. Every time I do this, I think I've got it totally solved, and then it gets broken again. So it's very sad. Also, welcome, Jack. How are you doing? Does your audio not work, Jack?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, we can hear you.
Great.
So yeah, so I was just saying I have spent time working on this. I thought I totally had it ironed out. Johanna had got it working apparently, and it worked fine. But then Molly McKnight went to go try to install it with the same instructions as I tested and Johanna tested. And we got these DLL errors when trying to load GDAL or PyProj or Rasterio. So this happens basically because GDAL isn't installing right. GDAL has some DLL dependencies. And so what we found was that the easiest way around this was to force remove it in Conda and then add it back in again using those precompiled binaries. I've updated the lab wiki. I don't love that this is the next best way to do it. I don't know why it broke again, but there we go. So those directions have been updated. The other thing is I've started to install to Anaconda 3 rather than program data Anaconda 3. Because the last time I installed to program data Anaconda 3, the environments that I would create would install under my Windows user directory and not where it should have gone in the Anaconda directory. So I've kind of made that as a recommendation of installing to that directory again. I don't know, Python always breaks. I had to review a paper where I was looking at a new algorithm to do some atmospheric perspective additions to hill shaded maps, which I'll talk to here in a second. But one of the things that I did was write a normalized routine for NeoPy. So there's a new version of NeoPy 1.6 that's now up online that you can install. And it's got this normalize function. What this is basically does is it's going to take a NumPy array and it's going to normalize it to ranges that you specify. And it doesn't have to be 2 endpoints. So the common example is you want to normalize your minimum goes to 0 and your maximum goes to 1. So that's kind of like the standard case of normalizing. But you might want to normalize to -1, 1. You might want to normalize to something else. And you may want to normalize to different breakpoints. So this will do that. I'll show you an example here in a second. And it's really just a wrapper for the interp routine in NumPy as just kind of some convenience syntax. So it doesn't do anything particularly awesome or anything, but it seems useful enough to throw in there. What it really can do that I think is nice is to normalize to more than 2 different points. So you don't have to do it with the endpoints, but you can specify a middle point. And so what you can do is essentially just define a piecemeal curve and it will make those adjustments. So in this case, I'm normalizing to an additional midpoint, which is the median, and then setting that to 0.5. So what I really was working on was implementing Brassell's atmospheric correction, which has been renamed to atmospheric perspective. This is a really neat, this is going to be something I'll probably talk about in GeoBiz next time I teach it. And if I ever get to teach a mountain cartography course, I'll talk about it then for sure. But what this will do is it's based on this idea that far things tend to get hazier as you've got to see through more atmosphere. So distant mountains, the color washes out and they look grayer. And so in 1974, when the algorithms for hillshades were first getting written, one of the guys that did a lot of work on that was Brassell. And he wrote a little algorithm for adding atmospheric correction into a hillshade, which then was like promptly forgotten about and nobody ever did anything with it. And then this one paper I was reviewing was talking about kind of a new algorithm for that. But I thought it would be interesting to include in NeoPy, so I wrote it up really quickly. So you can kind of see what it does here. On the left is a standard hillshade. On the right, sorry, they're a little bit cloudy. On the left is a standard hillshade. On the right is the atmospheric correction. So what that does is it kind of, smooths out a lot of the low-lying areas, and then it enhances the contrast at the higher areas. So it was an easy algorithm to write and kind of fun to look into. I also made it reversible. So if you want to accentuate low areas instead of high areas, you can do that. Jack, this whole line kind of gave me a whole bunch of ideas in terms of what you were talking about earlier about sort of simplifying a lot of the high, it wasn't contrast enhancement or dehancement, but sort of a similar idea for the printed stuff. So I'm glad you're here to join us. The other thing was there was a really neat way to secondary correction, which was actually super easy to put in there to make low-lying areas darker. So what this does is not only are you getting the contrast enhancement at higher areas, but you're also sort of tonally suppressing the lower areas. But what that does is it lets you see really clearly what's a high elevation and what's a low elevation, right? It's quite obvious in the figure at the right what's lower and what's higher. And this is with a fairly strong parameter, so kind of cranked up there, but you can adjust that how you want. There's like a knob to turn to decide how much you want to do that. But I thought both of those were pretty neat. I also still really like the bone color map. I think it looks cooler. So then the other idea that I had was, can you use the contrast enhancement to bring out detail in a like a surface that I've been using to look at like archaeological stuff. So this was El Pilar. This is the archaeological site in Guatemala and Belize. So this whole area is like totally covered in forest. So the first step is using Smurf to get down to the ground level. But then what I thought you could do is sort of use like look for the local mean of the terrain, and then see if you're above or below that, and then use that to supply the contrast enhancement. So this is what that looks like. So what this is basically doing is trying to really further enhance these kind of subtle features in the landscape. And I think it came out pretty well. There's a lot of little structures that a lot of the big structures get darker, like more than you would want. But what it does do is sort of bring out some of the detail and the more subtle features, which is neat. It'd be interesting to be on the ground and sort of figure out what some of this stuff is, because I have no idea. But some of it looks pretty, it looks pretty, like this section down here looks a little more structured to me. I don't think anybody has ever talked about that, so I may send a note over to the archaeologist that works in this area and see if they have any thoughts about it. So all that stuff has been added into NeilPy, and then I made another discovery, which is that you can just use this syntax to install it straight from Git. The old instructions used to, you could either download the zip file and install that with pip, which is fine. But to install it like straight from the Git repository, you needed to have installed Git, which seems like an extra step. So here's a reference for just installing it straight from the master. So if you guys want to update your NeilPys, it's just a one-line deal. Okay, Jack, I'm glad you're on the call, because I had just recently also discovered, as I was sorting through old bookmarks, that MATLAB has some routines for processing Velodyne data. So I thought you might be particularly interested in this. Probably you're going to need some toolboxes, and we'll have to figure out some of the rest. But it was neat to see that somebody had written the Velodyne readers, so you don't have to use ROS. You can do it straight from MATLAB. And with your background in MATLAB, this isn't any extra work for you.
Yeah, that's great.
So this is cool. This is the Velodyne file reader, which I want to take a close look at because there were some pieces. I wrote one of these for Python back in the day, or in Python, but there were some pieces of it that I never really thought worked quite right. So I may be able to look at the source code here and sort of get some ideas.
You can also run Python or run MATLAB scripts in Python. So that could be a potentially useful little tool if you want to do it mainly in Python, but just use these functions.
Do you need MATLAB installed still to do the interpretation, or is there something else that does the?
Yeah, you basically you just use Python to call and run your MATLAB scripts.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. I know that we have MATLAB licenses, at least on the university machine. So I know it's installed on Maverick, I think, or Goose. Every time they install stuff now, I tell them to install MATLAB. But I don't know what toolboxes we have. It looks like this is in the computer vision toolbox. So whether we have access to that or not, I don't know. But maybe we do. We should look into it. So if that gives you any more motivation, Jack, for the mobile LiDAR system, that'll be exciting. Okay, the other thing is that it's probably time, and maybe Jack, you can do this. You know, the Python LiDAR Velodyne ecosystem develops quickly. It's probably been a year and a half since I've gone down the rabbit hole and tried to see what tools are available for this kind of stuff. So just a quick Google search suggests that there are a couple of things that I haven't seen in a while. This one is from October 10th of last year, so pretty recent. So stuff is getting posted all the time. So Jack, maybe if you've got a minute, kind of poke around and just see what's out there that doesn't require ROS. And then this was also pretty cool. The algorithms that stitch things together. When I was kind of reading through the documentation on the MATLAB page, it was talking about the the NDT algorithm for stitching each individual frame together. So when the LiDAR spins one time around, you've got to come up with a way to stitch that to the next one. And actually, there's skewing that even happens in the middle. But anyway, there was an NDT normal distributions transform that tries to figure out how you should stitch these things together. And NDT looks like it's embedded in the point cloud library, which does have Python bindings. So that maybe makes it easier to imagine sort of a non-ROS specific. We've got a Velodyne reader, and if NDT is available here, then we're more than halfway there to just doing some basic registration ourselves without relying on ROS. I don't like to reinvent the wheel, but Jack, as you're figuring out, ROS is kind of a can of worms. So I don't know that it's yet saving us all that much time. Maybe ROS 2 will, but ROS 1 is kind of a bear to get running. All right, so that's it for me. I was in kind of a rush, so I didn't get to put a goal slide up there, but I'm still on vacation, so I don't have to have any goals. All right, who's up next?
I can go quick. I guess I don't have a ton since I just got back from vacation, but
Sure.
It's mostly just pictures.
Pictures of vacation?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Or can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was in a few places in Montana and Oklahoma. So first I went to Oklahoma for a retreat at Our Lady of Clear Creek Abbey, which is really nice. It's in eastern Oklahoma. So I was there for 4 days, and I went straight from there to southwestern Montana, where my sister lives. She's a wrangler on a ranch that has some cattle, and they also have guests and stuff. So it's me and my sister on the right, and that's my dad and my sister. So we got to ride a lot and work some of the cattle and stuff. It was very fun. And we also went out to Yellowstone because it's like 45 minutes away from there. So I saw some mountain goats, coyotes, moose. This is actually the moose were on the ranch. And it was nice partially because of the whole COVID thing. It's way less crowded than it normally would be this time of year. So yeah, lines weren't as long as whatnot. Some bears, bison, people. Yeah, just normal Yellowstone National Park stuff.
You hear about that woman that got gored?
Yeah, that was like 2 days after we left.
Oh, wow.
Something about that.
Somebody got gored by a bison?
Yeah, she got way too close to it, like within 10 feet of it.
Ooh.
Which is, yeah.
Did she die?
I didn't hear that she died. I heard that she got helicoptered out to a hospital.
Hmm.
But I mean, you hear stories like that every year from people just being done. That's why they have these signs up here. And these people are looking at these bears. They were like 200 yards away or so they weren't close to it. But it's a funny picture still.
What kind of camera did you use?
It was a DSLR with a 300 millimeter lens. So that's about it. I was just traveling. So goals, meet up with Riley and Sam for some drone practice. I sent them some DMs in Slack, so hopefully we'll get something soon, the next week or two. They need to do some proposal revisions still. Meet up with Dr. Ping, we'll talk about that. And then I also want to start playing around with that vertical exaggeration algorithm, which I meant to that was one of my summer projects, but I haven't really touched it yet. But I have some ideas. This is where it's kind of a dynamic vertical exaggeration where areas are exaggerated based on how variable the topography is in that area. So it's basically, I'm thinking it would be more useful in really, in scales where you have like a whole continent where you have totally different mountain ranges to like really flat areas. So you can still have detail in those. So I'll start playing around with that and see how that goes. So that's it.
Very nice.
I have a question. So with drone practicing, where's the preferred location to practice? Because I remember Mike said there's that field, I don't know where, but they don't really, it's just at 107 rolls.
Yeah, I think Riley mentioned that we could do it at Selu, where he lives, because that's like just totally open. There's trees and stuff. There's some open fields.
Okay.
Too.
Yeah, that's a really good spot. If you guys can make the drive out there, you couldn't ask for a better spot, really.
Okay. Can we fly it over people on campus? I'm just kidding.
Definitely not.
I guess I can go too.
Okay.
Let me screen share. All right, cool. Can Karen see it?
Maybe we need to like paint our drone like sky colored so that we can fly it like stealthily. We'll get a fixed wing so that it's not so noisy.
Yeah. One of the new hobbies I've been picking up is playing with ham radios. I bought like a little cheap one. Maybe that's something in my future if it picks up more, get a license. But I was telling Jim, I'm like, we need Neil radios so we can just fly it over campus, spread out. We'll radio it into each other. I think we should just use radios instead of Slack, but we'll work on it.
You bought a small ham radio?
Yeah, it's like it's called Baofeng. It's like a knockoff overseas one. Yeah. So like it looks like this.
You're still on the. Oh yeah, there you go.
It's a little tiny. There we go. Little tiny radio. So I've been listening to. You could program it. So I've been listening to fire department because they still use the old-fashioned radios. Well, not old-fashioned, I guess normal. So you can pick it up. I guess a lot of police departments use like encrypted Motorola ones, but yeah, that's been my like kind of like little hobby. Is just I see like a cop car drive by, and I'll just try the radio, see if I can hear anything.
Cool. How much do those things cost?
It was $30.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I found even a cooler thing called IPL. Yeah, it's like this little dongle. You plug it into your laptop, and it comes with an antenna. They have like a kit. I guess this is the kit right here. But you can pick up like a huge range of frequencies. So like this radio can only pick up like the normal little like play radios that you get from like Target and like police and all that stuff. But this picks up a wide range, so you can even pick up planes. But it's not broadcasting; it's just receiving. So you can listen to planes, and then someone made it so they could pick up GO16 data because it just sits out there in geostationary orbit. So you just got to point your antenna in the right direction, and you can decrypt, or you can like translate the radio.
Yeah,
broadcasting.
I've read about that.
Yeah, I thought that, I'm like, I was looking into it, I'm like, that would be kind of like reasonable, but you have to like buy like a dish, and it's like, it looks like a ton of work. But me and Maggie were walking around the other day, and I found someone threw out a old Dish Network dish on their property, just threw it off on like the side of the trash can. I'm like, hey, it is a free dish, so maybe we could. She told me absolutely not. So
You need a license for that radio?
to broadcast, so you can turn it off. Like I turn off the talking function, so I don't accidentally hit it. But if you want to talk to people beyond like what the normal, like the little toy radios are, you have to get a license.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been kind of quiet in progress, this proposal. One of the things I looked at, I forgot to put this on one of my slides. This is from like a couple weeks ago. I looked at Dask, which I've been hearing, like, I keep hearing like people talk about using Dask, and it's like an alternative to multiprocessing in Python. So getting like a function to run on a couple different threads, I guess. And I downloaded this tutorial that was really good that they made, the maintainers of it, and it's super easy, at least like the basic functions. So like I had this little function that you call the function, it waits 5 seconds, and then it returns whatever number you give it plus 1.
Mm-hmm.
So it should take 5 seconds to run. And all you need to, there's a bunch of different ways of running this, and it's kind of getting complicated, but like a simple Dask method to parallelize a function is, so you like, say like I have a for loop and I need to calculate this function 10 times. You import this Dask function called delayed, and then you call your function inside of it and pass it the variable. So it looks a little weird. So x equals delayed, inc, and then I is the number. And then my results I just appended to a list. And what it does is you run this line. This just sums the results, but the total dot compute. So I think what it does, my understanding is that that delayed function kind of builds, like it runs a for loop and it builds like a network, and you can actually visualize it. So it built this network. It saw that I want to run the this inc function 10 times, and then I wanted to sum all those INCs together and then give me my output.
Mm-hmm.
So like it takes like a couple seconds to run what the network looks like, so all your different functions, and then it computes it across the nodes that you set. And a cool thing is that you can run, it kicks up a little web interface where you can measure how many cores are being used, or your workers and your cores, which is pretty cool. And then I was reading that there's a way to like pass functions and like data between like network locations, like through the Ethernet. So that got me thinking, we could totally do a Neil supercomputer, daisy chain with two lab computers and whatever like random laptops we have lying around, and cluster compute.
Sure.
Yeah, but it seemed pretty cool. I think you have to do a little like testing. I don't know, there's a bunch of different functions, but the most simplest, the delayed function, seems like super powerful. Because multiprocessing was kind of confusing when I tried it out last fall.
Yeah. I don't love the multiprocessing syntax for Python. Sometimes you need it, but maybe this sounds like a better way around.
Yeah, I think overall, and then they have really comprehensive documentation and like training modules that are super easy to set up. So that was nice.
Okay.
Like Dr. Pino said, public service announcement, do a backup. I think so. We talked, and we're going to move over to OneDrive. But one of the problems we had with Google Drive was our shared drive data. You can't just like download in one swoop. You have to like, so you can do a bulk. It's called Google Takeout. You can just do a bulk download of all your data, which is nice. But you can't do that with a shared drive. So I'll figure that out, and I'll like write documentation on it tomorrow.
You can do so if you use FileStream, you can do that.
Yeah, the hiccup, which now looking at me wasn't the greatest idea, was you put it. I like to use everything in Google Docs because I don't know. I'm anti-Word, I guess. But the problem is you can't just download a Google Doc. You have to like go in there and
Right.
file, download. And Google Takeout, which is nice, will just download everything and convert it into whatever format you want. But it won't do. It will only do your personal, not your shared. So our shared drives are kind of stuck there. So, which isn't great. That's not good. Because what if something happened to Google Docs and it was out for a day? That would stink if you couldn't get any work done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll brainstorm a little bit, but I
Yeah,
think,
that's interesting because, you know, I really have been liking the Google Docs for like commenting on you guys' proposals and stuff like that. Like that's super convenient. I hadn't thought about that problem.
yeah, it's a little bit of a pain. And then like a couple weeks ago, I had another adventure with so I reinstalled. I did like a clean wipe on my computer and reinstalled everything, and my Word stopped working. Kept saying I didn't have a license, so I logged into my VT account, and it said I don't have a license for Word. I'm like, well, that's weird. We all get Word when we become students, right? So I messaged for help and like went back and forth with them, which they're nice. And they forwarded my case to Lon, who then forwarded to Les, who then forwarded to, because they thought I was faculty, because I guess the way we're like put into the system, it comes up as faculty. So I was being kicked around all of the IT people, and I finally get someone who works at like the undergrad or grad help desk, and they said, oh, you didn't buy the $22 Windows package. I'm like, I didn't know we had to pay for it. So I looked up, it's like $22 for the year, and it like starts in August and ends in August. I didn't know that, but I felt kind of goofy harassing these people in IT because my Word won't work, and it just turns out to pay for it.
Did you? So I actually was I reinstalled a bunch of stuff on my laptop, and while I was on like, is it like network.software.vt.edu or is it software.network? Yeah. There's like a code you can get, like it's got like a license key.
Okay. Let me check that out.
Yeah. And then there was that, and there's like an old version.
Let me know how it goes, because my Microsoft Office suite stopped working as well.
Okay.
For the same reason.
Did you pay at the beginning, like when we became grad students?
I don't know. There was a list of fees, and I thought I'd read all the fees.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So I felt, because like Lindsay was asking me, like she was asking me some Python questions, and she was like, oh, that like, sorry, I'm annoying you. I'm like, no, I literally just spent like 2 hours harassing people in IT why my Word won't work. I could have just read they had to pay for it. So I've been trying open source technologies, and it's clearly not as good as Word. So,
yeah, we really should have access to Word. That's really weird. Like
Yeah, I seem to think my theory is like I've had my computer for 3 years, and I haven't done like a full reset or anything, and I still had all my NIU accounts on there, which they kick you off after a certain time, but I guess Word never updated.
Yeah, that seems likely.
Yeah, so I was technically using NIU's Word, but they never made us pay. They just gave it to you. Like if you paid fees, you got Word.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was with JMU too, and I thought I transferred it from JMU to Tech because I think my JMU one like kicked me off of it.
Got it.
And I mean, it stopped working.
Yeah, it's kind of a pain. Yeah, so I guess that was kind of an interesting adventure, but yeah, I think like the perfect scenario, because I also tested OneDrive read-write speeds, and I also tested FileStream. Like when you start hitting it with like big files repeatedly, especially small ones too, which is odd, it'll just drop off the power. But OneDrive, you're just writing to the disk, and then what it's doing is it's just checking to see what's changed, and then I'll sync it. So you'll get the exact same performance as what you would get on your drive normally, which is nice. Because that's definitely a big problem. Like during the machine learning class, just moving files back and forth was taking forever because of the read-write speeds were just like kilobytes, sometimes bytes per second, and it'd be like, oh, it's going to take 2 days to transfer like one PDF file. Like, why is that happening? But
right.
I think like maybe like a good data practice would be having a central copy of it on the lab computers and then mirroring it. So maybe a good way for me is having a mirror on OneDrive and Google and just making sure it's maintained, but that complicates it.
Yeah, I think I was looking at the drive usage on Maverick or something, and it was pretty high. And I don't think anybody was doing anything, but it was like at 26% or something like that. It just idle.
Yeah.
So yeah, if a bunch of us have a bunch of that stuff kind of on and syncing, you could imagine the performance is going to really start to degrade pretty badly.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I know.
Well, the good news is too that that the NAS is supposed to be coming along pretty soon, so that should help out a lot.
Cool. How big is that going to be?
I think I bought, I forget, 20 terabytes for the lab, something like that.
RAID 0, I'm assuming. No redundancy, full throttle.
No. It's there's a whole separate box that will back it up. So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, nightly, I think.
Got it. Cool.
So, the website, I was going to post this in the chat. If you guys log into my.o365 or my office 365.vt.edu, you kind of the web version of that, but there's also like a download version, like a button, like an install Office on my local machine kind of a thing. That might break through because that might already be sort of linked to your account. So by logging in, you might sidestep some of these things.
Makes sense.
Worth a shot.
Got it. And then do you want us to use, or I guess me and you, do you want to do SharePoint or a shared folder between us?
SharePoint.
Okay.
Yeah. We already set that up once, didn't we?
Yeah. I was just making
Right.
sure. Everyone keeps telling me, I was talking to Josh, he said SharePoint's like super, super useful and everyone uses it in like the business world. Is it just like a centralized location for like an organization to dump files and everything?
Yeah. I'm not totally clear on what the relationship between it and Teams is. I think that increasingly they're kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
But I think you can form these sort of ad hoc groups that then have access to shared resources. Exactly like the Google Teams kind of thing is going.
That makes sense.
Or whatever they call it.
Got it. Yeah, so I've been working on my proposal, and then I've been I've been working 40 hours a week at my internship at NGA. It's been really quiet. One of the things is some interns who live close were able to go get their IDs to access their email, like within like 50 miles. But since I'm farther than 50 miles from DC or St. Louis, I wasn't able to get my ID to access my email. So everything's been like secondhand to me. So I've just been kind of like doing my own thing, I have like a couple like little projects I've been working on to keep me busy. But yeah, it's been quiet. I did get a mentor, which was really nice. He knew Tom Crawford, I guess. So he's geography / epidemiology and epidemiologist. And Tom Crawford was his master's advisor, which was cool. So in 2016, when he came to Virginia Tech, he left, I think, SLU. So he's originally from St. Louis, or that's where he worked.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, so that's really cool. Small world. But yeah, my mentor's helping me like make my resume and like market myself to other groups within the agency. So that's been productive.
Cool. Keep an eye out for good ways for us to get funding essentially from NGA.
Yeah.
I had a dead end last year and I haven't tried it in a long time. So
yeah, well they've restructured a lot of what they've been doing. So it's a lot easier to get to people, unless you're in my case. Like I was telling you, my boss, they had like a big group meeting and he just never forwarded me the link to the meeting. So I just didn't go. So yeah, it's been kind of quiet. I haven't heard anything, but I'll keep my ears out for funding options. Yeah. And then my goals are just proposal. That's all I got.
I can go next.
Okay.
1 second. gotta find it first.
Colleen, was that a Queer Eye meme I saw?
Yes.
Yeah, Maggie got me watching it. Man, I really enjoy it. It's great, but I have to be in the mood for it. But yeah, it's an amazing show.
Yeah, one of the seasons came out the day after my grandpa died, so I spent the whole day just binging
Yeah.
that season.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah, so this week I was working on algorithms, or these past couple weeks, finishing my outline for the proposal. I worked on it. It's not quite done, and working on the proposal. I got a lot of progress done this week, so that's been really nice. I've been spending a lot of time just researching and working on class stuff and going over the notes for algorithms, just to be able to take my time, but also I'm able to spend this much time because I don't have the internship. But I mean, I've been really productive, so that's good.
Yeah.
My first draft for the question was not great, but I got some direction, and the paragraph I've been working on, or the question I've been working on, has been going a lot better with this new way of doing it. It looks a lot, at least to me, it looks a lot better, so that's good. I updated my
Is that
GitHub
ready to
a
look
little.
at tonight or tomorrow if I pull it up?
It should be ready tonight. It's not quite done yet, I don't think, but it's it's a pretty big chunk of it done.
Yeah, everybody, don't forget to hassle me if there's as far as I know, I am now caught up on reviewing everybody's drafts. So if people need a new look at a portion of it, just let me know.
I was able, yeah, that should be done today, hopefully. I was able to update my GitHub a little bit because I realized that I needed to put more in the similar works part. I spent a really long time looking for a specific article by an author that was in Autocardo, and I couldn't find it at the VT libraries. I couldn't find it on ResearchGate for free, couldn't find it on academia for free. And so I decided, as I was signing up for the interlibrary loan, I was like, I'll just Google Autocardo and see what happens. So apparently it's free. So if you need something from Autocardo, just go right to their website. Save yourself the 30 minutes of searching.
I wrote that website.
You did?
I did. We're
Well,
actually
congrats.
to add some DOIs to these to make life a little bit easier for people kind of moving forward, but that's a big project.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting
Find what you're
looking at the
looking for?
locations of where they. Yeah, I did. I found it's a really good article to start with because it has a section on cost surface, and it's the one from 1989. This one right here, the Baltimore, Maryland one. And so it's come in handy for answering the question I've been working on, just because it's this is the furthest back as far as I know for the accumulated cost rasters.
Okay.
And cost distance is there's a section in there specifically on cost distance, so it's been really interesting.
Yeah, this conference is pretty old. You can see it goes back to 1974, and especially in the first 20 years of it, and even still, a lot of really big names go to this and publish in it, and it seems like it's been it seems like it was maybe one of the best GIS conferences up until pretty recently, and now there's a bigger variety. There are a lot of GIS conferences now. But back in the day, I think this was kind of the big one. So there's a lot of good stuff in those old articles.
Yeah, and I found it interesting that 4 out of the first 5 of them happened in my hometown. Well, I guess technically 3 of the first 4.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's free on Autocardo. Just go there. This week's goals: try to get 1 question answered each week following this week's pattern. And algorithms, getting that done. I'm getting closer to the point of actually working on the assignments for it. And so thank you everyone who's offered help. It's much appreciated, and I'll probably be taking you up on it soon.
Very good.
And I think that's it.
Cool. Thanks, Colleen.
Cool. Well, I don't have a presentation. So I've been working 30 to 40 hours a week on my internship in Roanoke, and then I come home and take care of Darcy. And it's been Megan went back to work on Sunday, so I've had like 3 nights by myself, and so
How's it going?
she's going good. She's getting big. I think she's like 12 pounds at this point.
That's great.
Yeah. So she's asleep in my arms right now because Megan's taking a nap. So,
Turn on the camera.
I don't have. I'm on my desktop. I don't have a camera on my desktop. I need to get a camera, especially if school's gonna end up being online again. If my classes are at least. But yeah. So my internship, all I do is I play with dirt. Like today, I put a bunch of dirt through what's called a number 4 sieve, so we can do California bearing ratio tests, and that just like tells you how much like the dirt will, I guess, compress and settle under extreme weight. So I've been doing that, and I started looking at. I feel bad that I hadn't looked at the comments from Dr. Pingle from back in May, but I just looked at those the past couple of days, and starting to work on the thing on my proposal again. Going to try and get that done by the end of July is what I'm shooting for. So I can have like at least like 3 weeks to get a meetings like set up with my committee to so I can do a get my proposal approved. And then yeah, I'll have for a week after next meeting I'll have pictures of what I do at work to show y'all like the kind of how cool it is, playing with dirt.
Yeah, that'd be good. I'd love to see it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's all I have.
Cool. Well, it was really good to see everybody. Nice to catch up. Does this time look like it's going to work for everybody? Maybe if we try to do this in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it should be good for me.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yep, same over.
For me.
Okay. All right. We'll see y'all in a couple weeks. And if, like I said, if you've got stuff that I need to look at for your proposals, just let me know. Cool. All right. See everybody. Have a good
Bye.
4th of July.